Hello everyone and welcome back to part 4 in this beginner Python series. So in this video I'd like to talk about something just a little bit different than usual. Python has a few things that don't really take up a whole tutorial, but you should really know about. So in this tutorial I'm just going to cover some of those. So we can start off by opening up the IDLE shell and going to new file. And I'm not going to save this because I'm not going to be running this at all. This is just to kind of like a demonstration. So in Python, you can have things called comments. And what comments are they are basically just things that text that Python ignores. So you'd use them to comment your code. So say I had a print statement here. This was part of a very large program and it printed out hello. And since this was part of a very large program, or even a medium-sized program, it would help if I could just be able to know what this does, basically. And it also helps other developers, or anyone else looking at your code, especially like if this line was a lot more complicated, with lots of different things going on, comments would be very helpful. And you create a comment by just typing the hashtag symbol, and that basically lets Python know I'm ignoring this line. And then whatever you want your comment to be. So I could say this prints hello. And it's kind of obvious right now because this isn't a very complicated line of code, but if you were, just if this were just even a little bit more complicated, this would be very helpful to you and even more so for other people. And that's basically comments. There's not much to talk about there except you should really try to do them very often in your Python code. And also something you can do, say there was a bug in this line. Say I had this type of quote instead of this type. And since it has to be the same kind of quote inside and outside, this would be a bug. And I wouldn't be able to, run this and say I couldn't figure out why it wasn't working. But I could trace it back to this line. Then I could comment this out. And this basically just kind of has Python ignore this line, but it's still there. So if I wanted to use this again later, like, oh, I found the bug here, I fixed the bug, and then I could just delete this hashtag and it's back to a normal line of code. And that's basically comments. I mean, you should really be trying to use these pretty often. They are very useful. And kind of while we're on the topic of kind of like clean code here, some you should something I like to do just to help it a little bit, make it a bit more clean. It's not really a feature of Python, it's just something nice to do, is you can kind of group your code. So say I had two variables here. X I could set to 534 and Y could be, say, 782. And then I had something that prints it out here, say my name, Cody. These wouldn't really have anything to do with each other. If it was just like this, it'd be a lot harder to just kind of read. And so we could just have a blank line there, and Python won't care about that. Because a blank line, it doesn't care, it just kind of skips over it like it does with comments. But you don't really need to put the hashtag here. I mean, you could if you want, you wouldn't get any errors, but you don't need to. And so you should just kind of group your code. I mean, just use your judgment, because it just kind of helps clean everything up. Then the other thing I'd like to talk about today is something called modules. And modules, you can think of it as kind of like an extension for Python, or maybe even a plugin or something like that. So what modules are, like I said, they're extensions. They just add to Python's ability. So there's a module for pretty much everything. There's modules for sending emails, for making games, for opening up windows like this. Um, and there's just a bunch of them. So in order to use modules in Python, you have to import them to your code. So you just write from, then your module name. So I'm just going to use tkinter here. Tkinter is basically a module that just opens up windows like this. And you can it won't be able to open up this window precisely. You can kind of customize that window and make it your own. But anyway, import, and then I like to just do an asterisk, and that's a pretty good thing. You should just kind of always do that, because you can import specific commands or things like that, but you'd have to type them all out individually, and it's just a lot more easy to just write an asterisk. When an asterisk means basically everything. So it's from your module name, import everything. And then there are lots of modules that come with Python. Python has lots of modules built in, and tkinter is actually one of them. You still have to import them even though they are part of what you download when you download Python. It comes with actually a decent number of these, and there are a whole ton of others, and those you'd have to get separately from Python. And actually, to do that, you would just open up your command prompt or terminal, or whatever it is that you have that's an equivalent. And then I'm not going to open mine up just for the sake of this tutorial. I'm just going to write it here. But just note, you would do this in your command prompt or terminal. And you just write pip install, then your module name. So I'm gonna use tkinter, even though you wouldn't actually have to install tkinter because it already comes with Python. And there are lots of other modules like that. Like I said, I think there's a few for creating websites and at least going to websites and sending emails and things like that. And anyway, so you just write pip install, then your module name, and then you click enter. And now this doesn't work because I am in Python, the Python ideally shell again, but you would just do this basically in your command prompt or terminal. And then you just click enter and it would install for you. And there is another way to get a module, but most of the time you just want to use pip. And you can also create a module of your own, and that is a little bit more complicated, so I'm not going to show you how to do that in this tutorial, but just know that you can do that. And that's pretty much all I wanted to talk about in this tutorial. If you liked it, please subscribe and hit the notification bell, and thank you for watching. I'll see you next time.